Let's be honest, how many times have you caught yourself wondering, oh, is he thinking about me? Is he missing me the way I'm missing him? We've all been there. Refreshing messages, overanalyzing replies, trying to decode emojis like they're hieroglyphics. And in those moments, what you really want is simple. You want to be unforgettable. You want to be the woman he can't stop thinking about when he's at work, when he's with his friends, when he's scrolling through his phone. Not because you're constantly texting him, sending selfies, or trying too hard to be liked, but because your presence is powerful, even in your absence. Now, here's the secret. No one tells you you don't get into someone's mind by forcing your way in. You get there by making a lasting impression, by becoming a woman who is emotionally, intellectually, and energetically magnetic. And guess what? This has nothing to do with how pretty you are or how cool you act. It's about how you make him feel. It's about what version of himself he becomes when he's around you. And today I'm going to give you 5 powerful, practical keys to becoming that woman. The kind of woman who doesn't chase, but is constantly chased. The kind of woman who lives in his thoughts, not because she's trying to, but because she's impossible to forget. This isn't about games. This is about value. And if you can learn how to step into your value, I promise he won't just think about you all the time. He'll be wondering how he ever lived without you. Let's get into it. Leave space for desire. One of the biggest myths people believe, especially in the early stages of attraction, is that more access equals more connection. The idea that if we're constantly texting, constantly hanging out, constantly available, will somehow build a stronger bond. But let me challenge that thinking. If someone never has a chance to miss you, how can they ever truly value your presence? You see, attraction doesn't grow in a straight line. It needs tension, space, the unknown. And most importantly, desire needs room to breathe. Think of desire like a flame. If you smother it with constant contact, you don't grow it, you kill it. But if you feed it with just the right amount of oxygen, space, it burns brighter. It becomes something people crave. That's how you create longing. And longing is what keeps someone thinking about you when you're not in the room. What we often forget is that we teach people how to value us by the amount of space we allow. When you're always available, always replying within seconds, always saying yes to every plan, you become expected, predictable. There's no sense of scarcity, no emotional edge, no spark of what's she up to, or I wonder if she's thinking about me. But when you create a little distance, not out of manipulation, but from a place of self-respect, it creates curiosity. And curiosity is the birthplace of obsession. Now, I'm not saying play hard to get or disappear for days. That's not attractive. That's confusing. What I am saying is give them space to feel your absence, to remember the sound of your laugh, to replay that moment you looked at them in a way no one else has when you're not in constant contact. Those moments echo louder. They linger. Have you ever noticed how sometimes the best part of a great date isn't even the date itself? It's the feeling afterward, that dreamy smile to yourself. I can't wait to see them again energy. But that can only happen when there's a pause. That space between experiences is where desire lives. If you rush to fill every quiet moment with a text, a call, an emoji, you rob both of you of that beautiful space where emotions deepen. The truth is, when someone doesn't have to work for your attention, they start taking it for granted. It's just human nature. Think about it. We value what we earn more than what's handed to us, and relationships are no different. When you leave a little space for someone to come towards you, you give them a chance to invest, and when they invest, they value. It becomes their pursuit, not just your availability. You also have to remember this. If you're constantly reaching out, it doesn't give them the opportunity to miss you, and people can't long for something that's always present. So instead of always being the first to text good morning or checking in late at night, try letting things be still. Let them feel the contrast of your presence and your absence. Let them wonder, this isn't about playing games. This is about energy. It's about saying, I enjoy you, but I'm not dependent on you for my happiness. That energy is magnetic. It's grounded. It shows confidence, and confidence is what creates emotional pull. So if you want him to think about you all the time, don't try to fill every silence or chase every moment. Instead, create a little space. Let desire grow in the quiet. Let him feel your absence so that your presence becomes something he craves, not something he assumes. Because when you give someone just enough room to miss you, you become the thought they can't shake, the person they want to reach for, the one they start wondering about in the middle of the day. That's not magic, it's intention. And it works. Be passionate about something that isn't him. If you really want to stand out in someone's mind, here's one of the most powerful truths you'll ever hear. You become unforgettable when you're already full. When your life is rich with purpose, joy, and meaning that doesn't revolve around him, anyone, or even a relationship. You see, being passionate about something that isn't him doesn't mean you're indifferent. It means you're independent. It means you already have something that lights you up, gives you fire, and makes your eyes glow before anyone else even walks into the room. Why is that so attractive? Because people are drawn to energy. They're drawn to aliveness. When you talk about something you love, whether it's your work, a cause, a hobby, your creative project, there's a natural spark that happens. You're not trying to impress anyone. You're just being. And ironically, that's when you're at your most magnetic. Most people get caught up in the idea that to be desired, they have to focus on the other person. So they drop their passions. They adjust their schedule. They abandon their goals to make space for someone else's time, attention, or approval. And what happens? They become forgettable. Because instead of showing up as a whole, vibrant person, they become a mirror reflecting someone else's life, someone else's desires, and there's nothing memorable about that. Now, contrast that with someone who has their own rhythm, their own mission, their own thing going. That person isn't chasing, they're living. They bring their partner into a life that already has meaning, and that changes the game completely. Because now, instead of being someone who's asking to be chosen, you become someone who's inviting them to earn a place in a life that's already amazing. Let's be honest, obsession doesn't come from predictability. It comes from curiosity, from the sense that someone has depth, complexity, layers. If all your time, energy, and emotion is wrapped around him, where's the mystery? Where's the intrigue? But when you've got your own thing, whether that's running your business, crushing your fitness goals, creating art, mentoring others, or building a dream, you become a woman with momentum. And momentum is attractive. And here's the kicker. When you are passionate about something that isn't him, you actually bring more to the relationship. You bring conversation, inspiration, growth. You inspire him. You elevate him. And that sticks in his mind long after the date ends, because he's not just thinking, she's beautiful. He's thinking, I feel more alive when I'm around her. That's a whole different level of connection. It also creates emotional safety. Why? Because a woman who has something bigger than the relationship going on is less likely to fall into neediness, insecurity, or codependency. She's grounded. She's not constantly seeking reassurance or validation because her self-worth is rooted in her purpose, not in whether someone texted her back in 15 minutes. And that energy, that kind of emotional stability, it's rare and it's unforgettable. So if you want him to think about you all the time, show him you're not just about him. Show him you're about something bigger. Because when you're deeply connected to your purpose, you become more than just the girl he likes. You become the woman who inspires him, the one who makes him want to rise, to grow, to be better. You stop being just a fleeting crush and you become the standard. That kind of woman doesn't just cross his mind occasionally. She lives there. Create signature moments. If you want to be the woman he can't stop thinking about, then here's something most people never tell you. It's not just about how you look, it's about how you make him feel. The human mind doesn't hold on to every detail of an experience. It holds on to the standout moments, the peaks, the unexpected, the emotionally charged. And this is where your power lies, in your ability to create what I call signature moments. A signature moment is something he'll replay in his mind long after it happens. It's that one thing that separates you from every other conversation, every other date, every other person he's met. It's not about grand gestures or expensive dinners. It's about emotional imprint. And when you learn how to create these moments, you stop being one of many and start becoming unforgettable. Think about it. How many people go on dates that feel exactly the same? Small talk, drinks, maybe a compliment or two, a quick kiss, and then they go home and try to decide if there was a spark. But the spark doesn't just magically appear. You create it through energy, intention, and emotional presence. For example, maybe in the middle of a normal conversation, you suddenly ask a deeper question, one no one's asked him before. Something like, when was the last time you felt truly proud of yourself? Or maybe you share a story that's real and vulnerable, not for sympathy, but because you're comfortable in your own skin. That moment of emotional honesty becomes a jolt, a break from the norm, and he remembers it. Or maybe it's something playful. You challenge him to a random dance off in the kitchen. You start a spontaneous game. You make a silly bet. It's unexpected. It's quirky, and it plants this seed in his mind. There's just something different about her. And here's the key. You don't have to fake it or try to force some magical moment. Signature moments happen when you're fully present, when you're not just focused on how you're coming across, but actually tuned into the moment you're sharing. You laugh fully, you ask interesting questions, you listen, you bring your real personality to the table instead of trying to be the cool girl who plays it safe, because safety is forgettable. Realness is not. You don't need to be dramatic or theatrical to create emotional impact. Sometimes just the way you say something, the timing of your eye contact, the pause before you respond, those subtle shifts can create massive depth. Emotional connection isn't always loud. Sometimes the quietest moments are the loudest in his memory. And let's not underestimate the power of surprise. When you break patterns, when you say something witty or wildly observant, when you tell him something no one else has had the guts to say, or even when you end the night a little earlier than expected with a confident, "I've had an amazing time, I'll let you wonder about the rest," that unpredictability keeps him on his toes. And people obsess over what they can't quite predict. Ultimately, creating signature moments is about breaking the script. Most people operate on autopilot, especially when dating. When you step outside that, when you connect authentically, when you allow yourself to be spontaneous, playful, and emotionally awake, you shift from being just a date to being a memory. And not just any memory, the one he keeps coming back to. Because at the end of the day, we don't fall in love with someone because they were perfect. We fall in love because in a single moment, they made us feel something real. Be that moment. Keep your standard sexy. Here's a truth that every woman needs to hear, but too many overlook. Men don't obsess over women they don't respect. And respect comes from the standards you set, how you treat yourself, what you accept, and what you won't tolerate. Keeping your standard sexy isn't about being rigid or unkind. It's about valuing yourself enough to know your worth and communicating that in every interaction. Now, why are standards sexy? Because standards show that you have boundaries, and boundaries create attraction. They send a clear message. I'm not desperate. I'm not willing to settle. I know what I deserve. And there's nothing more magnetic than a woman who stands tall in her worth. Too often, people confuse being nice or easygoing with lowering their standards. But here's the thing. Being genuinely kind and warm doesn't mean accepting less than you deserve. In fact, the sexiest women I know are the ones who demand respect with grace and confidence. They don't beg for attention, they command it. When you keep your standards sexy, you're essentially saying, I'm a prize worth pursuing, and men respond to prizes. They want to earn you, to prove they're worthy. If you give everything away too quickly, your time, your attention, your affection, you become a convenience, not a challenge, and no one obsesses over convenience. Think about what standards really mean. It's about knowing your deal breakers and standing firm. It's about not settling for being just an option or the backup plan. It's about expecting honesty, loyalty, and effort when you communicate these expectations clearly, not with ultimatums, but with calm confidence. You create respect and desire simultaneously. Another powerful aspect of sexy standards, they protect your emotional energy. When you keep your boundaries firm, you don't waste your time on someone who isn't aligned with your values or who doesn't treat you with care. You save your energy for the right person, which makes your presence even more valuable. And here's the key, you don't have to be rigid or unyielding. Keeping standards sexy means flexibility with self-respect. It means knowing when to hold firm and when to let things flow naturally. You're open to connection, but you don't compromise your core. That balance is irresistible. Imagine a man who knows you have standards. He knows you won't just show up for anyone. That makes every moment with you feel like a reward, not a given. That sense of exclusivity, it hooks him deeper than anything else. Lastly, keeping your standards sexy isn't about creating distance to manipulate. It's about embodying confidence. When you're clear on what you want and what you deserve, you radiate power, and power is magnetic. It makes you memorable. It makes him think about you long after you leave the room. So if you want to make him think about you all the time, start by loving yourself enough to keep your standards high and sexy. Because the woman who respects herself first is the woman who lives rent-free in his mind. Mirror, then mysteriously pull back. Here's a secret about attraction that sounds almost too simple, but it's one of the most powerful tools you have. People are drawn to what mirrors them. When someone reflects your energy, your emotions, your vibe, it creates a feeling of connection, comfort, and safety. It's why you might find yourself naturally drawn to someone who laughs the way you laugh, who shares your sense of humor, or who looks at the world through a similar lens. We crave resonance. We want to feel seen. But, and this is crucial, connection isn't enough to make someone obsess over you. If connection was the whole story, you'd only have to show up and be nice. Instead, what really hooks someone into thinking about you all the time is a dance between closeness and distance, warmth and mystery. This is where the idea of mirroring and then mysteriously pulling back comes in. When you mirror someone, you're tuning into their energy and matching it. If he's calm and relaxed, you're calm and relaxed. If he's playful and teasing, you playfully tease back. Mirroring creates a subconscious bond because it sends the message, I'm like you, I get you. And that feeling of being understood is incredibly powerful. It lowers defenses and builds rapport fast. But here's the catch. If you stay mirrored all the time, if you never pull away, he starts taking you for granted. That comfort can easily slide into boredom. The emotional tension fades. And desire dies without a little unpredictability. So after you mirror, after you match his energy and connect, you want to pull back just a bit. Not to play games or confuse him, but to create a subtle shift in energy that makes him wonder, is she still interested? What's she thinking? That mystery creates a spark. It activates his curiosity and his natural urge to pursue. Think of it like a dance. You step forward, you step back. You move with the rhythm of connection, but you never lose your own beat. When you pull back, you're showing confidence. You're showing that your happiness doesn't depend on constant validation from him. And that independence is magnetic. This doesn't mean ignoring him or disappearing for days. It means creating moments where you're a little less available, a little less predictable without closing the door entirely. Maybe you don't reply instantly to every text. Maybe you suggest a plan and then leave some time before following up. Maybe you don't always share every detail of your day. These little things create space for him to fill in the gaps with thoughts of you. The key is balance. Too much pull back and he might lose interest. Too little and he might take you for granted. But done right, this mirroring and pulling back builds an emotional roller coaster of closeness and distance that keeps him coming back, keeps him invested, keeps him thinking about you all the time. And here's the best part: when you master this dance, you don't have to chase. You don't have to wonder if he's thinking about you, because he'll be curious, he'll be drawn, he'll be wanting. So remember, match his energy to build connection, then pull back just enough to create mystery. That push and pull, when done with authenticity and confidence, is the secret to living rent-free in his mind. So to make him think about you all the time, it's not about chasing or trying to control his thoughts. It's about becoming the woman he can't forget, the woman who leaves space for desire, who lives passionately beyond the relationship, who creates unforgettable moments, who holds her standards with sexy confidence, and who knows when to mirror and when to pull back with grace. This isn't a game, it's a mindset, a way of showing up for yourself that naturally draws him in, sparks his curiosity, and keeps you living rent-free in his mind. Now here's your challenger starting today. Choose one of these 5 keys and put it into practice. Maybe it's stepping back from constant texting and creating space for him to miss you. Maybe it's diving deeper into your own passions and lighting up the room with your energy. Whatever it is, take action, because the woman who acts on her worth, who embodies her confidence, is the woman who no man can stop thinking about. Go be that woman and watch how the world and his mind starts to shift. Thank you.